Hello and welcome. My name is Joe Moretti, and I am part of the business development team here at AmeriCollect. We are thrilled to have you join us for today's webinar titled The Reality of Going Virtual and Training Remote. Now, if there's one thing that we've all learned over the past year and a half, it's that we can adapt and we can thrive. Here at AmeriCollect, we face the same challenges with the pandemic as everyone else, including how to deal with our new virtual reality in a ridiculously nice way. Now, if you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to submit them into the chat and we'll make sure to leave some time at the end of the webinar to answer your questions. Now, you can find the chat, which is the speech bubble icon at the top of your screen if you are using the Teams app, or at the bottom of your screen if you're using the web browser. We are so excited to have our very own Travis Gauthier, training manager here at AmeriCollect, today to give you an inside look at how we were able to transition to a virtual training. Travis will also provide you with a detailed look at how you can make this work for your organization as well. Travis has been with AmeriCollect for 3 years with our operations team and is responsible for new hire training and ongoing training for our AmeriCollect team members. With that, it is now my pleasure to turn things over to Travis.
Thank you, Joe. Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you so much for giving our organization an opportunity to create value and share knowledge specifically for you and for our industry. We're here today to talk, as Joe said, about the reality of going virtual, as well as some tactics and ideas for your remote training program. Now, Joe did say that my relationship did start with AmeriCollect 3 years ago, a working relationship, but actually my relationship with AmeriCollect started a little over 10 years ago. And how I actually really got to know AmeriCollect was their living and breathing culture of ridiculously nice. And why I say that is because over 10 years ago, as a younger man, maybe wasn't the best with my finances and ended up finding myself getting one of these nice little listings from a collection agency named AmeriCollect, and they were ridiculously nice. They were some of the nicest people I've ever really talked to as it relates to medical billing. And when I got an opportunity 3 years ago to start working with their training team, I knew I had to at least take the opportunity just because of how I felt in that moment. So that's how I ended up getting to this organization. After that situation of being in collections with AmeriCollect, educated last 12 years training in professional development, Six Sigma, e-learning, and LMS. So we're going to go over a little bit about a lot of those components of starting to go home, thinking about getting people into the mindset of full remote. And really where we started was the core of our core values. We are ridiculously nice, and our ridiculously nice teammates educate patients to help them improve their financial well-being, resulting in revenue recovery for our clients and reduced health care costs for everyone. And as you see there, we have 5 core values that we wanted to make sure that before we even started bringing candidates in to work in these positions, to make sure that they had the right culture fit, that they were ridiculously nice, and that's how we've built it from there. All right, so the next couple things we're going to do here is we're going to kind of start getting into the actual training itself, thinking about it's time to go virtual, all of the good thoughts that have to go along with the platform of. Oh, and it looks like my presentation stopped. 1 second. I'm going to reshare my screen so you have it. Moment, please. Let me just make sure you can see my screen here. All right. So previously, if any of you have ever had a remote program before, it's very possible that you had people come into the office. And, the one thing that we learned over the last year is anything can happen to push everyone home. Like, I don't know, maybe COVID-19, where everyone has to go home and we start pushing people. So what we thought about initially was before we started getting into the mindset of sending someone some equipment, we started out with what kind of equipment and software are actually going to be used and how are we going to get it to that person? Now, I ask you each and everyone to think about in your career or in a personal life, have you ever had anybody ever say to you, oh, it's easy, you just XYZ? Because when you're talking about equipment specifically, there's a lot of things to consider, right? What about the cost of the equipment to send? What about the safety of the equipment to send? Does everyone need the same setup? Does people have laptops as opposed to pro desks? What's your return policy? And the good thing about our organization and our senior leadership team is that they identified there's a lot of questions and they empowered the different areas to actually come up with that process. So what we did is we created a think tank and we got all the areas that would be impacted with this process. So when we send equipment out and we need someone to join us to onboard fully from home, we brought IT from the equipment and the logins and the setup, HR from the recruiting, communication and onboarding, training because we're the ones who are going to accept them through this process and train them everything they need, and then operations because they're going to accept them into their team after the fact. But the biggest issue is that every single one of these teams needs to be on the same page in order for it to look like everyone's on the same page. Everyone knows what the process is. Everyone has the same mindset. Everyone knows what the answers are to questions that come up. And when we got into this think tank, we were able to determine the most appropriate way to start sending people home. Again, fully remote. They stay at home and we send them a box. So the very first thing that we did with the IT team is we started with equipment and we created an inventory list. So the best thing that we were able to do is determine what all different setups do we need per position and create that list. And then we were able to put it into a paper format or a virtual format that they could follow. So when they eventually get their box, there is a list of here's all the equipment with pictures and visuals, and they know all the different things that they should have in their box. So it took some evolution, the cost of boxes. So we went ahead and we created our own version. You see, here's our first edition. But what's the most important about this process, my good people, is the feedback and the process improvement component. Because things you're going to find are more efficient, cost effective. You'll find that the process of when you send something or when you start connecting with someone might be more beneficial. So here's an example of first state. And after some process improvement, we were able to ship the box more efficiently, more safely, and here's our current state. So during a pandemic, I'm sure some of you probably have ordered from like Amazon or did your online shopping, and you probably ended up getting a nice pile of boxes in your front door. But eventually, after you accept a role with AmeriCollect and you go through all your boxes, you're going to end up finding a box like this in your living room. Now, this box right here is just the equipment. It's not assembled, it's not ready to go. They have to fully set it up themselves. They have to set up dual authentication, they have to get their logins, they actually have to get themselves into the virtual meeting. Now, one thing to consider from training and development is know your learner. A mature learner is going to probably follow the instructions different than, say, a younger learner. And we identified that. So, what we were able to do is we were able to create step-by-step paper instructions as well as virtual instructions for both, and they could make that decision. If one didn't work, they could try the other. And I tell you that it was a painful, I mean painful process working out the logistics of the instructions. Because think of it this way, most would think, okay, your power strip has to connect to the wall and you need to turn your computer on after you plug it into the power strip. But we identified a variety of issues along the way where if we didn't tell them what to do, some would get stuck and call our help desk. So the idea with these instructions and making them very clear with pictures and steps was to prevent work for the IT team. I'm sure all of your folks in IT have lots of work to do and lots of efficiencies internally. The last thing you want them to do is to field questions on setting up equipment. So as you see here, this is just a very quick example of step-by-step instructions, and we even labeled with numbers. So steps number 6, plug the ProDesk power cable item 2 into the back of ProDesk item 1. It is literally step by step with instructions and pictures for them to do it themselves. Now, I ask all of you this question now, and I want you to be honest with yourself. If I said to you right this moment, I need you to pick out your cell phone and I need you to scan a code in order to pull up some instructions online, would you be able to do that? My mom, for example, she's very technical savvy, but if I said, Mom, I need you to scan a code, a scan code, she'd go, "How do I do that?" And I would explain to her that you would open up your cell phone on your camera on your smartphone and you would scan the code so it'd pull up the instructions. But she is more about the actual step-by-step paper instructions. So as you see here, her logging in the first time would look something very similar to step by step. You do 1 to 2. And we even went as far as making sure every single little pop-up that came up, they gave instruction. And again, the idea is for someone to know exactly what to do and how to actually join the classroom. So here's an example of what I was talking about, the scan code. So as part of their welcome packet, we have this little scan code. All they do is they scan it, and our IT team, as well as our training team, work together to create a very efficient and very well thought out within our company website. And what we have here is we have information for them to pick the best location for their equipment, but more importantly, I'll show you a quick little example of a video, how they can actually set up the equipment without looking at a paper copy.
Congratulations, you're ready to go to work from home. My name is Jeff Brandenburg, IT support technician, and I'm going to walk you through the training and setup of your new work from home equipment. Let's get started.
Let's take a look at all the equipment you're going to receive. First, you'll receive 2 monitors, the power cord for your ProDesk, the ProDesk itself, a webcam, your headset, a network cable, typically 25 feet, a display port to DVI adapter, a DVI cable or the white one, a VGA cable or the blue one, power cables for your monitors, and a mouse and keyboard. Alright, let's start with the power cable. Simply plug into the far side as
So as you can see, it is a more visual for those who tend to be a little bit more visual, who just want to pull it up on their phone. It creates a video, and then they can follow the steps to set up their equipment for the first time. Again, we've had a variety of feedback from a variety of diverse individuals from different backgrounds, and we've gotten a lot of feedback as to how to make the instructions better, how to make the video better, and we feel we're at a point now where all we're doing is just making small little tweaks to improve based on equipment advancement, based on software advancement. But it's been very helpful for us in order to get somebody to start with us before having to come to the office. And it's been very helpful with recruiting, especially I'm sure a lot of you are also experiencing open positions or trying to hire the right candidates for the right roles. This is a great way for someone to legitimately stay at home, a full remote work, and we can send it to their doorstep. So you've now officially gone through the steps of getting their equipment and sending it out the door, but now it's the important part, right? Now you need to determine, what do they need to know and when do they need to know it? And especially with whatever the process is, whether they're in a revenue recovery role, IT, they're in a project side, at some point they need some form of training. And every unit should have their form of a learning plan. But unfortunately, what happens is sometimes people have so much information that they need to share, but they're not sure how to structure it. And it ends up being so, as I call, by the way training. Oh, by the way, Angela, you need to go ahead and do this. Oh, but by the way, before you do that, you go ahead and do this step before you do this step. And it becomes very jumbled. So it's very important to make sure that you identify all the information that you need to train somebody and structure it appropriately. Piece it little by little, create a resource and train to your resource. When I first started my career, I was given paper, like stacks of paper stapled together, and I'd flip through to find information. And if something updated, I'd have to pull out my pen or my marker and I'd have to cross it out and put in a new number, put in a new process or a new bit of information. And it was just really counterproductive to finding information. You'd have to reprint things off if something became updated. Unless you updated your paper copy, it wasn't updated correctly. So a virtual resource is absolutely 100% the way to go. There's a variety of ways that you could do this. Some people just do Word documents. It's simple, but it functions very similar where it's virtual, it's updated. You can do Control F to search for keywords to go through the entire doc, but there's more efficient ways to today's standard. Some people use Wiki. I like Wiki, but there's a lot of coding involved. So we actually use SharePoint. And SharePoint with Microsoft Teams and having those types of collaboration tools has been very beneficial. You have a certain amount of individuals who oversee the guidelines, they update it, they publish it, and then everybody follows the same virtual format. We encourage our learners to do the best they can to not write things down. I know there's a lot of you out there who need to write things down to remember it. I'm cool with that, but make sure that you're using your virtual resource so we can continually update it. And more importantly, we can train our program to that virtual resource. Kick the paper, save a couple trees. All right. So what you're doing then is you're eventually building this learning plan. And again, what do they need to know? When do they need to know it? What is the ideal time invested in order to get them trained and comfortable enough to do the role? There's a lot of things to consider, right? Is there a staffing issue where you might need them a little bit sooner? How do you find that balance? Well, what we've done is we've identified times where we needed to get individuals trained a little bit quicker, but instead of just sending them out, we work with coaches and team leads to nest with them so they still get that time, they still get that support. But the one thing that I've consistently found in my career of training and development is to create a syllabus, create a roadmap. A lot of times, we have a lot of information and it's a very quick, like, okay, we're going to train them payment plans, system, compliance, take calls. But there's a lot more to that, right? What specifically about compliance? Where do you find the presentation? Where is the information located? And very similar to high school, college, and so on, they generally have a syllabus that they share with you to say, all right, here's your roadmap. Here's what to expect for the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 months. And they follow that format. And my trainers, the fun thing about working with trainers and letting them find that empowerment, that autonomy to create the format that they want is I created just a general structure of what I want. I want them to tell me broken out by date, by time, what specifically do they need to cover during that day. And as you see at the top here of my presentation, they have a key. Anytime they're going to hand some documents out or they're going to hand some content, it's designated in purple. And if they're going to have presenters, they designate that in red. And they know for sure what those things mean. Now, here's another example of a different set of trainers who they did it this way. But again, the format is the same. You don't want to micromanage your trainers to tell them how exactly they have to do every little thing, but giving them an outline, at least for them to start thinking about, all right, here's the types of things they need to do. Here's a hyperlink to open up the presentation. And I also tell you this, along with creating a syllabus and a roadmap to make sense, this is also a great way to prep for the future because I love my trainers. I love my training team. They're wonderful. My job is very easy. I had create advisement, they bring solutions, but I know for sure how great my team is. At some point, they're ready for leadership. One of them already is right in that realm. And I'm going to recommend this person when the time comes. But as always, as leaders, as managers, as training and development specialists, we worry, well, what's going to happen, right, when I lose that trainer? Creating a syllabus like this is a fantastic way to develop the next. Start creating small shadow programs with people who are interested in training. Give them little bits of information to train throughout. Expose them to your syllabus, expose them to hyperlinks where things are. And that way, when someone is ready to move on, you've already been working with someone who has a legitimate chance to potentially move into that role. So creating that learning plan does a couple things for you. It allows you to know your structure, make sure that people are being trained the same way almost every time. And it also allows you to prep for the next trainer that you might potentially need to fill. I love the syllabus. I love the outline. What I also love about it, especially being from Lean, is that the trainers make notes in their syllabus after each and every class. If something gets updated, if something was incorrect, if something changed, they make notes in their syllabus on that day on that subject. And then what happens is when the next class is ready to come through, we save a copy of the prior one and we make updates. So essentially everyone is getting the same program, but it's always evolving and always getting better. Okay, so we've determined our equipment, we've determined our software, we've put in instructions, we've finally prepped now. We have a roadmap, we know what all they need to know and how we're going to train them. But now it's time to start talking about the training components specifically. They have now signed into their system. They've eventually are ready to get in some form of training classroom. So what I'm going to share with you, and this is why I'm really excited about this presentation today. I hope you can see that, because I previously in these presentations would talk about kind of the four components of a good training program, which was a classroom component, remote virtual, a computer based or CBT, and a learning management system or LMS. So what we're going to focus on today is mostly just the remote virtual component of it, just because all of us have probably experienced the classroom. I will say before I start specifically talking about the remote virtual, it is definitely possible as people continue to get vaccinated, as we start to see people are being invited back to their office, you can actually hybrid, where you can have some people in person in a classroom setting if that's their learning style, and you can have people virtually. That's the benefit of these virtual classrooms. You have so much flexibility these days to work with different areas. And again, if someone is more of a hands-on, they need that additional support, we can still invite them back to the office, of course, safely per CDC recommendations, and make sure that they get their learning and then eventually ship them home or find a safe spot for them in the office. But as we're seeing the future and as we're finding more research, more articles online, the future is virtual. And a lot more people find the flexibility and they find it more convenient to stay at home. So we're continuing to evolve in more of that remote virtual format. So a classroom, or quote unquote a remote room. I want you to think to yourself, at your current organization or what you're familiar with, how do you bring people together? Do you bring them together in a Microsoft Teams? Are you fortunate enough to have Microsoft Teams at this point? If you are, wonderful. We love it. It's been very beneficial, but you don't need Microsoft Teams. There's some other options to use well. You can use GoToMeeting, you can use WebEx, you can use Zoom, you could use Skype. It's not the best format I have found, but I would highly recommend something along Teams or using a collaboration tool as Teams is, because you can collaborate together. The future of learning is everyone teaching everybody, and this cycle of everyone of process improvement and teaching each other. Okay. Previously when I first started in training and development, it was training to someone to get them to learn somebody, and we've evolved to continue to make that as everyone's learning off each other, and the collaboration tools are great ways to do it. So, the one statement that I've consistently found myself using to training classes, to my team, as an organization, we ask people to be on camera. So, my favorite quote is, if you're at work, you are camera ready. So, for example, I'm going to use a name of, I don't know, Marge. If Marge is an individual who typically likes to be in person and she needs a little extra support in a classroom, I can see Marge's face. I can see she's disgruntled. I can see she's confused. I can see she needs a little extra help, where I can walk on over and, here you go, Marge. Oh, yep, here's where you go. But I don't get that luxury a lot of time on the phone. So if she's on camera, that allows the training team, the team leaders, not only to engage, but also to identify when things are happening. If you wear glasses, probably not best to text while you're on camera, because when you're looking at the camera and you're texting, you can see the glare of your cell phone. So even as trainers, that allows us to see when someone's distracted. So if you're at work, your camera ready. If any of you had to work from home, did you feel like you're on a desert island at all? Did you ever feel like at a time like we were going crazy, the walls were talking to you, and you kind of felt like you needed Wilson, right? As someone to keep you company. So, just being on camera is a lot easier to engage as a team. You can see each other. You feel like you're still involved with your culture. Uh, there's really just so many benefits. Now, granted, you might need to maybe do the hair, make sure that you have a nice appropriate shirt on, but really there's a lot more value. So I did give just a very quick example. I was unable to take a screenshot of an actual GoToMeeting, but here's kind of the concept if you've never used it before. You have an instructor, you have the rest of your learners, whether they're in person or virtual, they're on camera, and then the blue where it says health, insurance, spending accounts, those are just some topics that the trainer might share. But I'm going to go back to Teams, because what I want to share about that and what I highly recommend is to use the collaboration tool of something like Teams. So as you see here, we have a chat function that everyone uses to chat. But within the teams function, that allows us to break out different groups. So as you see highlighted here, my team is the operations training. So I have my bad debt team, I have my early out team, I have my team of quality, and that allows us to not only have a general collaboration of a team all together where we can share things like files, syllabus information, updates, communications, and then of course you see here throughout there's a variety of other options for individual teams, if you will. So there certainly is a variety of different things that are beneficial to the collaboration tool, right? You can work with your teams without actually being in person. It gives you the ability to create those frequent communications, notes for team meetings, if process or documents need to be updated or shared amongst just that team individually. Again, great opportunity for them to do that within this specific team. And of course, a lot of individuals might have, a G drive or like a network drive or something like that, where people are going to, um, share all together as a full organization. That's great. But again, the collaboration tools are the best ways individually to save, different areas for your IT if you're taking bandwidth, things like that. Here's just one example again of one team, okay? And very similar to all of us here on this team's meeting. This is just one kind of in a team meeting getting some updates. And as you can see, they're very intent on their updates because they want to make sure they're doing their processes correctly. But this would be one example of this group of people involved in one of the Microsoft teams. And only these individuals have access to this information. So operations training, this might be a potential team, and they all collaborate together. Here's another example of just one of the trainers in a very generic subject of a payment plan, but one of my trainers training a team virtually, all from all over the different area. And it's just a very great way to engage people and make them feel like they're still in a classroom setting. Role playing. Role playing, role playing, and role playing as much as you can in the classroom to reflect as close to the job as possible. My trainers are doing ride-alongs with SMEs, subject matter experts, to know the types of calls that are coming in. My trainers take calls, and what they do is they create these different examples based on the relevant things that are coming up, so we can continue to evolve it and make it as most relevant. 2 years ago, my curriculum had nothing related to the words COVID-19. But of course, as all of a sudden a whole change in industry, right? We now have this new process of COVID and testing and vaccinations, just all these different things. So we have to role play these examples and we have to learn in order to evolve. I definitely love this part here, just as kind of getting into a character or creating a persona. That's the best way to keep people engaged. If you're just saying, "I am calling to make a payment today," it gets old after a while. So the trainers also get creative. They create personas. They create, okay, I am going to be Jim from this state. Here's my financial situation. Here's my balance. Here's my insurance. Here's the outcome we're hoping for. And then we create a checklist of all the things that they should have done throughout the role play. And at the end, that's a great way for us to either, hey, great job on what you just did, or hey, here's some opportunity of things we're expecting based on our compliance, based on our quality. Here's ways to improve. And we do it frequently. We have them ride along with people who are SMEs to see the job. Ask yourself, do you have a training environment? Are you in a internal system, or do you have a system like Epic where you have a training or playground where you can create examples and have them go through the steps? Another great way of creating personas or giving examples is create a library of calls. A lot of times we have the ability to get call recordings. Spend the time and invest the time with your training team or with your different teams to listen to a variety of calls and pull really good examples to inspire them, and pull examples that might not be as strong so they can hear kind of the differences. And it really allows the learners to be inspired to then take the next role play. Some individuals, again, knowing your learner, some will take it head on. Like, those are your top performers. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but dang it, I'm going to do it today. Let's do this. Like, that's your top performer. We love those folks. But you also have those individuals who have the ability to be coached to a top performer, but they're very timid. Unless you tell me what to say, I don't know what to say, and I don't really know what to do with my hands right now. So what should I do with my hands before we role play, right? So inspiring them of listening to how other people have done it to then give them the opportunity to make it their own is a great way to kind of build up those individuals who are a little bit more hesitant to try it the first time. And of course, I use this picture here because, you have to make it appropriate, you have to make it professional, but you can certainly get fun with your role plays. One of my favorite characters for role playing is Mumbling Guy. Any of you who've ever been in a call center, had to take calls, you've had that person who mumbles, right? Yeah, hi, I'm calling here today because I was going to make a payment in my account number's on there, 745. Got that? You're like, huh? So it's great to actually give a variety of different examples, because how is that person going to react on the phone? They're probably going to be confused and like they're going to freeze. But if you role play ahead of time with them, they're prepped for somebody who mumbles. Or, I have a family member who just talks so fast I can barely understand anything she says. I love her to death, but she just spit fire and everything. And we're on to the cat and the dance recital and all this stuff. So there are a variety of different examples that you can share and make sure that they're getting a whole robust amount of different examples. They're exposed to different types of behaviors. Great ways to prep people for the actual job itself. And I ask you, do you currently have a team that's creating role plays? Do you have a team that's coming up with personas? Do you have individuals who are listening to calls and making it better each and every time? Because calls need to be evolved. Whatever calls you had in your library from a year ago, that might be different to what standard you need to be sharing with your team today. So, making sure that it's evolving over and over is definitely part of that process improvement. All right, so let's dip into a little bit about computer-based training. Now, a lot of times people think that computer-based training is a recording of somebody talking to somebody else. Sure, you can get away with it, but you also want people to engage. You want people to click on things. You want people to think strategically about what steps they would do next. And computer-based or self-paced training is a great way to create resources, to allow your trainers, allow your team leads to do other things, do other projects. They create the content and they just send it out. And I will tell you that our curriculum right now for new hires, I would say, is about 25% computer-based training or self-paced learning, where it's already been developed, it's been created, we enroll them in the courses and they take it. And computer-based training could, be a couple different things. It could just be they watch the video or they take the training and they're done. But I would highly recommend ensuring that there's also a quiz. It's been proven over and over, even though people get a little nervous on quizzes, if they take a quiz on something, they are much more likely to remember it than if they were not quizzed. So these authoring tools you can certainly purchase. There's a variety of options, and here's a couple ideas. One is called Articulate 360. It's a learning platform that you purchase, and you get a monthly fee, and you can create all of your computer-based content. It gives you all the tools, and it allows you to own your content. They don't own it, you do when you own the license. Adobe Captivate is something that we currently use now. I would highly recommend going with a monthly subscription, because the perpetual license sometimes are rendered obsolete. And what I mean by that is, for example, Flash 10 might no longer be supported by your system. But if the perpetual license requires Flash 10 to publish and to actually use the software, that's where it becomes obsolete. So using those monthly subscriptions, yes, it is a cost, but look at it as an investment. It's allowing you to create trainings and content to free up resources. It allows individuals to take them, as time goes on. So if they've, been in the role for 6 months, we've created courses and content for them to take at 3 months, 6 months, a year, to continue to either refresh what they learned and continue to evolve their education. For example, if you're thinking of like Epic, you could get down the rabbit hole of coding and medical terminology. But the longer they're in the role and the longer they're exposed, it's more appropriate to add a little bit more advanced content to them. And again, you don't even need a trainer to do it. I will say that you need to have some individuals who have a little bit of creativity, because you also want to have a little bit of entertainment. We call it edutainment. educate, enlighten, and of course, entertain. And if you're doing at least those three things, people are going to learn, they're going to be excited about learning, and they're going to want to take the next one. So let me give you just a really quick example of just a couple things that we've built with our authoring tools. So one of them, here's an example of a um, articulate studio. So you see here, here's where your content is shown. On the right hand side is the menu option. But this one right here is for information security. As an organization, I love to brag that we are high trust certified. And how we got there was creating a whole process and ensuring that everyone was following the same formats of content and they knew the information they needed. So let me show you just a really, really quick example of an introductory video, and then I'll bounce around a little bit so you can see how this actually operates. So as you can see, really what it is it's a software tool that allows you to continue to develop. And again, the creativity here comes from our team. We thought it would be kind of fun to put together like a spy theme where you're kind of like a spy going through all the different things that you need to learn in order to recover some PHI. It just made it a little bit fun. It allows us to create these different sections for people to click on different things to get their content. Here, I'll show you just one example of another section here.
In order to move on to section 3, I need you to listen to a couple.
Hello, Stephanie.
And notice here, I'm clicking. I'm actually the one engaging through this.
Hello? Hello, is Stephanie available?
This is,
Stephanie Fisher,
this is,
$653.
I'll be honest, this is not Stephanie, this is her mom, and that bill has been paid.
So this is a great way to continue to allow your person to actually engage and click. And what we've done here is we've clicked some call recordings, and of course we're protecting PHI and we're protecting every individual, but it allows us to go through real life examples so they can see the different types of processes that they need to follow and when it's relevant back to their job in kind of a fun way. I'll show you here. Here's another example of our organization. And if you recall, we have 5 core values, one of which is we have fun and celebrate. And it's great for us to brand that and make sure that we celebrate at the end. You know, here's our core values, and then all of our trainers who kind of built it, we just do a little goofy dance to a fun little song just to let them know, hey, congratulations, we appreciate you taking it. We know that was a lot. And it's just a great way to celebrate and have fun. And then I'll show you the reason why I didn't go to the test right away is because when I click it, it's going to require me to take it. But you'll see here the final test then. What it does is it actually then asks them a variety of questions. You'll see here 1 through 10. They have to pass the quiz in order to move on, and then they're considered trained, or at least they've met the competencies. So there's a variety of different tools that are out there for you to use. I would recommend, just starting basic, but you see here how it becomes more elaborate. The computer-based training is only good in a URL or in an internet browser. If you want to track it, it becomes a little bit more manual if you don't have a learning management system. So that's what we'll briefly touch on here is what's called an LMS, a learning management system. What this is this is a lot of times a vendor. And again, look at it as an investment because what it's doing is it's going to automatically track everything for you. You can house all of your content. You can use your authoring tool to publish it into a correct format to upload to your learning management system. And more importantly, you can also then take a variety of courses, content, and subject and create learning plans. So yes, we have learning plans for new people, but you can also create learning plans if someone is struggling on your team, or you can create learning plans for, okay, after 3 months or 6 months in the role, here's a couple courses you can take to continue to evolve your development. But the learning management system, again, the best thing about it is it tracks it for you automatically. Can any of you think back to when you used to get tests with the red pen, right? You'd get the little test back, the paper copy. As training professionals, it's become so difficult to collect everyone's paper. And of course, with COVID these days, right? But take the red pen, manually check it, mark them, track it in a log. The LMS, the learning management system, it provides automation. It timestamps when you enrolled them, when they took it. Again, it also allows you to get those learning plans. And then, of course, you can take your authoring tool. So you don't even need to make this big, elaborate, computer-based, beautiful training. You could just use your authoring tool to make daily or frequent quizzes. Quiz them on 5 or 6 things that they should have learned today and see how they performed. And then your learning management system will track that for you, and it's a little easier for you to assess how people are doing. And more importantly, as you continue to get more classes and as you get more data, that starts to paint a picture for you. It tells a story. Okay, on day 3 people are not understanding for whatever reason this quiz. Is it that the content maybe isn't very good? Is it that the trainer just needs to adjust a couple ways they're training it? Or is it this that it's a very poorly written question? And we've identified all of them, but until you actually have that data to paint the picture, it's hard to know where you have improvement. You could be training someone for months and months and months the same over and over, and it seems like they're doing okay, but until you start quizzing them, it's hard to know. You need to assess them. And those of you who are readers, if you want to jot this down, I might recommend a book called Make It Stick. It's the science of successful learning. It is all around the concept of quizzing, assessments, and the appropriate way of getting people to remember information. And quizzing is the best way, whether it's daily, every other day. And then, of course, my trainers, as part of their role as well, is to assess that person to determine that they're not going to be a liability when they start taking calls for whether it be bad debt or for our early out service. It's a great way to assess. They do a final test and they do a scenario-based readiness test. And again, it helps us to determine how they're performing. Now, I did actually pull from our learning management system. If you see here, here's just a very quick little visual of what you'd be looking at. So here's the assignment date of when you assigned the learner. Here's your learner. Here's when they specifically completed it. And then the detail that really allows your trainers to do the full assessment is how long were they in the course? If everyone has been in the course for 12 minutes, but one person was there for 40 minutes, what's the issue? Was that they didn't understand, or were they doing something else they shouldn't have been doing, right? Here's the course name. Here's how many attempts that they actually took the quiz or they took the course. So it allows you to identify those who might need a little bit more care, a little bit more content. And then it gives you the score. So this automation is fantastic because then I can customize these to drop to my trainer's inbox, whether it be daily, weekly, monthly. So the engine runs overnight and it drops an email to them at like midnight, and they can go in and double click, and the next day they see the results from what happened the day prior. And it's a quick way for them to track. They create scorecards, and it's great for leadership because we can create scorecards to let them know, here's how your person performed on this subject, or more importantly, here's where your person struggled in training. They killed it along the way, but these two concepts, for whatever reason, they were not able to, understand as well. These two areas are where you should focus their learning to start, although they're going to need everything and they're going to need continued development. And a learning management system is a great way to automate it. Again, this can be done manually. It can, but with all of us, time, money, and resources tend to sometimes prevent us from doing those types of tasks. So a learning management system or something of the like that will automate things for you is a great way for you to continue to evolve the program, continue to evolve really everything with your learners. And of course, with the newer generation coming in, I think we're at Generation Z, right? Have any of you experienced Generation Z? The great workers, some of them are more interested in engagement and recognition, having fun at work, right? And that's great because they still are great production workers and they still get the job done, but they need a little bit more than your typical 9 to 5, come in, do my job, and go home. We have a lot of individuals who are right in that area. Yep, I want to come, do my job, and go home. But some need a lot more. And as an organization, we want to offer more. So we have this really awesome committee called the Employee Engagement Committee. And what they do is they come up with things like games, engagement, have fun, celebrate. There's a variety of ways that you can do it, and I'll give you a couple ideas. And actually, I would encourage all of us to maybe play a game together after that. Let's see if we can maybe get through a quick game here in our webinar. So one of the quick ways to celebrate and just appreciate is after every training class, whether it's 2 people, 3 people, 15 people, any training class, what we do after they've all passed their readiness test is we host a meeting with senior leadership, management, team leaders of that department, trainers, and then all the learners. We don't tell them it's happening. We invite them to a meeting and we just start clapping. And I give an introduction. I explain a little bit about who we are as an organization and we appreciate them along the way. And what I love about this is it's a really feel good way to pull at their heartstrings because then in each slide, I state their name and I have my trainers prep just a few nice words of encouragement or some inside jokes because the trainers probably spent anywhere from 3 to 6 to 8 weeks with them. They're the relationship at that point and they're trying to transition to the team lead. So it's a great way for us to create a united front, celebrate them. And I will say, Kyle Allard, and my trainer will say, Kyle Allard, you did a fantastic job in training. You're very strong at negotiation. We appreciate everything. Your humor was hilarious. By the way, you're definitely going to get that Corvette someday. So keep working hard to earn commission. Congratulations to you. We all clap. We recognize Kyle in that moment. And then we move to the next slide. And each person gets a very personal message about why we're proud of you, what you specifically did a good job. And it really shows that they're more than just a number. We care about you. We're happy for you. We celebrate you. And that was just one little thing that we do to engage, have fun, celebrate. There's other things you can purchase as well. There's fun little platforms and they're fairly cheap. You could create a nice little family feud. So what we did for one engagement event is we had a variety of different teams and we created brackets and each of them kind of competed against another team to a family feud event. And then we kind of got all the way to the end and here's the championship final match of the family feud. The software was dirt cheap, but you can also get creative. Another thing, have any of you ever seen The Masked Singer? Or have you ever heard of The Masked Singer? Basically what it is someone's in an outfit, they sing the song, and then they try and guess who they are. And it was really fun for us. We had volunteers to say, hey, I'm going to dress up like this. I'm going to sing a karaoke song. And then everyone got to, similar to the bracket, they got to vote on, okay, between the unicorn and the peacock, who did you think did a better job or who did you like more? Everyone voted and then that person moved on and then we got to the end. So there's a variety of different ways to still create culture virtually because in person here at our great building and organization, it was fun to get together for monthly meetings. It was fun to do those games and engagement efforts, but you really have to go above and beyond or go out of your way to find engagement at home. Because early on in the pandemic, it was identified that some just they didn't feel the love. They didn't necessarily feel the culture. They didn't feel what they felt in the office. So we purposely took the feedback and we went out of our way to invest in ways to continue to evolve people, see little fun things to take a break from collecting or from doing their job in a really fun and engaging way. So another item is what's called Kahoot. And Kahoot is a fun trivia game that can be done virtually. So what we're going to do here together, and I'm going to encourage everyone, let's do a quick exercise and let's do a quick game. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and I'm going to pull up the game platform. So what everyone's going to do is either on your computer or on your personal device, I'm going to ask you to go to Kahoot, KAHOOT.com. Again, it is Kahoot, KAHOOT.com. And you'll see there that it does provide you with a little bit of information like, okay, you could purchase an account and it allows you to explore a little bit. But I'm going to share my screen again here with you. Within Kahoot.com, when you get there, there should be an option for you to go ahead and select to play the game. And right here on my screen, you see there's a game pin. So again, your instruction is go to Kahoot.com. And what you're going to do is you're going to find the section where you can add a game pin. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and enter that game pin in there. And get yourself in there. And we'll just do a little bit, just a quick exercise to show you how easy it is to do an engaging either trivia game, a review game, so we can play together and you'll get the concept. All right, I got a couple in there. All right, got a couple more. Please go ahead. And if you want to play, I'll give you about another minute to find yourself to Kahoot.com. Again, you're either going to a personal device or you're also going on your computer. Find the area that says play now to enter a game pin. And your game pin is 556 4912. And it should allow you to enter in. Now, one bit of instruction I can tell you before we play our 5-question quick game, so I can show you. You'll need to either have your phone or the Kahoot where you've entered in on one screen, and you'll need to have the screen that I'm sharing on another. So very similar to like a Buffalo Wild Wings, if you've ever been there, right? And you want to play trivia, they give you the little kiosk thing that you enter your name, and then you look up at the screen to the question and you make your selection. That's exactly what we're doing here, just no beer and hot wings. So Kahoot is a great way to engage. You can create your own custom questions, which I've done here just for the sake of our time together. But your trainers or my trainers have actually taken our core content and made fun review games. So something like insurance. Now me, I'm kind of that geek where I love insurance because I've been in property casualty and in health insurance and now revenue cycle. So I like that sort of thing, but not everyone does. So it's a great way to create a big review game for someone to engage, have a little bit of fun, but still kind of get that that knowledge. Okay, so I have enough learners here that we can go ahead and get started. So me as the facilitator, I'm just going to simply hit start. You'll see on your device that it's going to tell you that you're ready to play. And here we go. Question number 1. From the beginning of my presentation, how many core values does AmeriCollect have? All right. Yes, the correct answer is we have 5 core values. We are ridiculously nice. We develop the next. We do the right thing. We have fun and celebrate. And we believe that together we can. Those are the 5 core values of AmeriCollect. Wonderful. All right. To the next question, we have, Michael. Michael in the lead so far. Let's see if he can hold true. Here we go. Next question. What does LMS and CBT stand for? What does LMS and CBT stand for? Very nice. The Learning Management System and Computer-Based Training. Good. Just little acronyms that have been used in the training and development space. That's what I've at least said in the presentation, so that's what I would expect you hopefully to know at the end. So let's see. We got Alex jumping up here, so we've got to change. All right, next question. Here we go. Question number 3. AmeriCollect and its teammates are ridiculously nice. We are definitely ridiculously friendly, but we are ridiculously nice. All right, and now I've got 2 other questions at the end just to show you some other random ones. Oh, Alex on fire. That means that Alex has consistently been on a streak here. All right, next question. Epic, the healthcare software company, was founded in what year? What year was Epic, the healthcare software company, when were they founded? Only one person. 1979 is what I understand from my research online. Okay, if I'm immediately incorrect, but from what I understand, 1979 was the correct answer, which it looks like Alex is on the streak. All right, last question, and here's your randomest of ones. Objects, regardless of their mass, free fall at what acceleration? Objects, regardless of their mass, free fall at what acceleration? 9.8 meters per second is correct. If you're thinking of your physics days, 9.8 meters per second. So we have now the podium. So we're going to recognize Michael in 3rd place. Congratulations, Michael. In 2nd place, we have Jody. And in 1st place, the big winner of the AmeriCollect remote training webinar game is Alex. And it's fun for us to then have a little bit of time to celebrate that person. Also during training, we've come to have little prizes or little things, little engagement things where we could send them like a $5 gift card to, Starbucks or, some little, engagement things where we do have big games in review to celebrate or to have prizes. So Alex, congratulations to you and your victory. But again, that's just one example. It is a monthly cost. It's very, I would say, cheap compared to some other things. It's only a handful of dollars a month. And it does have a whole library of things from like Disney trivia to science trivia. And then again, you can create your own internal lingo and, excuse me, review games. Certainly is also fun in training to have a bit of a mental break and do like Disney trivia or something fun that people just enjoy, to reinvest that time to the mental importance of their mental state. So we've covered quite a bit today. To recap, we briefly talked about the equipment and software setup of getting it to them. We talked about a learning plan of setting up and getting yourself ready to start bringing people. And then we went through some tactics about different virtual classrooms, some computer-based training software, some learning management software, and how you can all put that into a curriculum as well as have fun and engage with your team. At this point, I would like to go ahead and open up. If anyone has any questions for me specific to anything that I talked about, I would love to answer that now. And if not, I'm also going to give my information. If you're uncomfortable asking today, that is my email, and also I can include my company phone number as well. If you wanted to inquire anything after the fact, you can certainly write this down and reach out at a later time. So, Joe, I'll pass it over to you to help facilitate.
Yes, Travis, it does look like we have one question that came in. The question is, what do you recommend the passing score should be?
Ooh, that is a fine looking question you have there. Thank you for that. It really depends on how many questions you have, but it's been customary to be at about 80%. Sometimes when it's coming to like daily content, we might have something along the lines of like 70 or 75% to be considered at least passed. But when it comes to compliance trainings, so like for us as a collections company, we train HIPAA, FDCPA, FCRA, TCPA. Okay. So those are ones that I would set at a higher score at 80%, because if they're not getting, 8 out of 10, there might be a potential concern, and I'd want them to retake it to actually just to display those competencies before we actually have them start taking calls or whatever the training is. It's a great question. And by the way, you can set those rules within your computer-based training software, where you can set where you want the percentage to be. And same with your LMS, you can correlate those two together to actually consider them passed in the system. Or if they didn't meet the correct score, you can have them take it again, or they can be re-enrolled in different versions. So like our readiness test at the end, we have them take one version, and if they fail, or non-pass rather, we have a second version that they take that's tweaked a little bit. I believe that if someone takes the same test again, it's a little easier now that you might know the question or answer. So we just change them up a little bit so they're actually displaying that knowledge.
Travis, that is it. The only other question here is whether the recording of this will be sent out to the group. And yes, it will be. It'll be sent to your email tomorrow.
All right. Any other questions?
We have somebody typing. Give it a second, Travis.
Gosh, I love teams like that.
It was just a note to say thank you so much, Travis.
You are very welcome. Again, as an organization, we want to continue to build relationships across the industry and across our networks. We really enjoy sharing knowledge. Certainly as far as the content itself, we'll continue to create webinars that create value and share this type of knowledge. So again, we as an organization, thank you so much. We appreciate that opportunity. And if you have any other questions, again, here's my information. You can certainly email me or shoot me a text, or heck, even give me a call and let me know who you are, where you're from, and what your question is. And I would be more than happy to at least get an answer if I can't answer it right away.
That's all, Travis.
Very good. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for your time. And we hope you have a great rest of the day. And we hope to hear from you soon. You're welcome. You're welcome, Jerome. Thank you for joining.